Hello and welcome to the BamCam podcast with your hosts, Jack Burnette and Alison Castellano. I'm Wendy McConnell. Jack, it's good to have you back. It's been a long time, mister.
I know. I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, and because I've handed off some podcast duties to Allison and Adrian a little bit for the last couple of episodes.
You've been shirking your duties, absolutely.
Well, maybe. It's not that I've been traveling to somewhere exotic or anything, but we are going to talk about travel and perhaps exotic travel today, so that's a good thing. You know, listeners to the podcast know that we really advocate living a balanced life, a fruitful life, an enjoyable life, because having balance in our life, you know, obviously Allison and Adrian and I, we focus on financial wellness for our clients, and because that's the area that we can really contribute and help people with. But we also truly advocate people finding balance in their life through physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, and you know, our loyal listeners would know that. They've seen that pattern with our episodes by now. And part of that is that, you know, Allison and Adrian and I have a passion for travel. And that's part of that spirit of adventure is something that we really think makes life interesting, makes life fun, gives us things to look forward to, and rewards us for the things that we do well in our life. Travel can be a little overwhelming, and we wanted to bring in a friend of ours, Kathryn Gresham, also known as AK. AK and I have known each other, gosh, probably 10 or 12 years, probably going back that we were in a running group together initially, and how we met. We also have common friends in that AK was a sorority sister with the daughters of one of my good fraternity brothers, Lauren and Grace Birch, and they were all Phi Mu's together at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
So anyway, I've known AK for a while, and I've known AK since before she was a travel agent, and I've seen her take a career change and to become a travel advisor, and she's with Life is Short Adventures. And so welcome, AK. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'm kind of curious, I don't know the complete story of what led you to become a travel advisor.
Long story or short story?
Well, we've got
your
a little time.
Your story, yeah.
Right.
It's your story.
Okay. So I grew up in Tuscaloosa as an only child and didn't have the ability. My parents just weren't big travelers. So going to college there, that was 22 years in the same exact place. And I just had a desire to see the world. So any opportunity I had, thankfully, for college, friends lived all over, so got to go visit some of them when they got married, and just trips with friends. And so really in 2011, I went to Europe for the first time. A friend invited me. It was like January. She was like, hey, found super cheap tickets. Those don't exist anymore.
That's true.
And for $600 round trip, we went to 5 different cities in Europe. So we went to Amsterdam, we went to Paris, Nice, Barcelona, Madrid, back to Amsterdam. So this was traveling on a budget. We stayed with friends. My friend's brother actually lived in Nice, so we kicked him out of his tiny apartment. So 3 girls in like twin beds. So it was an adventure, and that really, that did it for me. So I became obsessed with traveling, seeing the world. And so in 2013, so that was the first year I was not in a wedding since I graduated in 2007. So I decided every month I was going to go somewhere new. So I had friends in D.C., a friend that had moved to Denver. I had never been there. So in May of 2013, I went to visit a friend in Denver, and I just fell in love with the city. And that was when everybody was moving to Denver. They still are. But that was kind of like the big, I guess, kind of movement. So I moved there 3 months later. I was able at the time to work remotely for my company, Payroll and Benefit Solutions, and I was in sales, so that was easy. And 5 days after I moved there, I met my now husband, and he traveled for work. So that afforded us the ability to just like jump on a plane, being in a big airport hub. And then we got married. We got married in Mexico. And then that is when I really said, I want to learn, more about the industry. So I'd asked the travel advisor that we worked with, a little bit about it. She kind of said, there's, it's not really a career anymore. And I just let it go at the time. But it was always something that I really had in the back of my mind. So we went to Italy for our honeymoon. We did that for 2 weeks.
Just like Allison and
Yeah,
Adrian.
we went to Italy for our honeymoon too.
And it's, that I planned the whole trip by myself. I obviously had asked people for recommendations and had friends that had been. But after really giving my Italy itinerary away, after people always asking where they should go skiing, my husband and I are big into, wine country trips. And so I decided after meeting a random stranger in the Aruba airport in 2021, our first trip after COVID, that I really, really wanted to pursue it this time. So as fate would have it, a few weeks after that trip, I was at a local brewery here and ran into a friend who had started her own agency after her husband had died of brain cancer. She had little kids and really needed to be more present. So I asked her to go to lunch, and then after that, just kind of like I do with everything, I dive right in. So I make very good impulsive decisions. And so I'm in year 3. So I have been doing this kind of part-time. I did want to make sure that planning trips for other people was as enjoyable as it was for myself. And it really is my passion. It really brings me joy. I had a text this morning from a client who got married during COVID, and really didn't get, she didn't have the travel opportunities. Yeah. And there's a lot of those that I'm doing trips for, and they all happen to be to Italy. So she just said, just this long text, thank you so much. We couldn't have done it without you. We had an amazing time. I really appreciate everything that you helped us with. And so, those trips really they bring me joy. I've, had a few widows that, the husband died unexpectedly, kids are still in high school, and, they're like, we've got to go somewhere. Our agency is Life is Short Adventures, and I say that all the time to people. Life is short. You never know what could happen tomorrow. Obviously, COVID taught us that, and really, has made the travel industry boom because everyone's decided I am going somewhere. I'm going to do something. So that's the long story of how I got here.
Okay.
I love it.
Good. I love it too. And so I love it when someone gets to pursue vocationally something they're passionate about. Mm-hmm. That's a very special thing. So because your job isn't a job when you do that. Yep. So it's just something that you enjoy doing. It's what you do all day and what you love. So that's fantastic. What are some of the destinations? You mentioned Italy, and it's a fabulous place. I love Italy and have been numerous times. But what are some of the other destinations that you have helped clients with in putting together trips?
Yeah, I've helped clients plan trips to over 25 countries, I think, in the last 3 years. a lot of my trips were really, it's funny they come in waves, but over 20 trips to Italy. The UK has really been a big swing. So lots of clients wanting to go to London and Scotland or try to pair Ireland with it depending on the time. But
and y'all just recently went.
We did, yes.
For spring break, I think,
we
wasn't
did,
it? Yeah.
yes. So I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and that was not our original spring break plan. But obviously, as planning trips for clients, we did find the flights went down drastically. I was planning this trip for another client, and then I told my husband we're going. And so we did, and it was just wonderful. Getting off track a little bit, I will talk about that trip because my husband travels for work still, and he's gone all the time. And obviously, kids are in school. I work full time, so we were together 8 days straight. And I mean, for the most part, uninterrupted. I did have over 30 clients also on spring break trips, so there were a few things that I had to attend to. But it was just this wonderful time with our family that, is really hard to have 8 days together. And,
Sure.
Even unless you're just not working and you spend every waking moment with your family, you really don't have that. So just to see my kids, like their excitement of, getting on the trains, the castles, the swords, the crown jewels, all the things. It really was special. And, I've said, never say never to a lot of things. I said I would never move back to Alabama. I've done that twice. And I said I would never take my kids to Europe until they were 12 because I wanted them to remember it. And our neighbors from Denver, they had lived in London for a long time, and so just talked about it a lot. And, they may not remember all of it, but we will remember their excitement for it, how much fun we had. And then, as soon as we got home, my 4-year-old's like, Mom, when are you planning our next trip? And I was like, well, buddy, we have basically the rest of the year planned. So, I just encourage people to do it. I mean, my kids, there were meltdowns and there were, we had trouble getting comfortable on the plane at night, but it was less meltdowns than we have at home on a normal basis. And they were tired every night, asking to go to bed. We had to wake them up in the morning. So it was some of the best sleep that they've had in a long time.
And probably sleep for mom and dad too.
Yes. So that London and really anywhere in the UK is just a great first entry destination if you haven't been to Europe, because they do speak English. Everyone is super kind. So people that are intimidated by not going to be able to read, the signs and all of that stuff or understand what they're saying.
Now, I have a hard time understanding in parts of England and Scotland.
Yes, Scotland, you can.
It's English, but it's not English. It's not Alabama English.
That's true. And they had a hard time understanding some of the things I would say with my thick Southern accent. Yes, the Scottish is very thick. We had to ask some ladies we met at the bar at the hotel to repeat themselves a few times because we weren't following. But they were super kind, and it's such a great place of just like history and beauty and just ease of getting around.
I have found that in Europe, there is no English barrier when you're in cities.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people, especially in the service areas, restaurants, hotels, shops, and those types of things, the tourism places, English is widespread, and it's not an obstacle at all in the cities. When you get out of cities, that's another story.
Yeah.
But all throughout Europe, it's that way.
Yeah, and the menus and, in the big cities that you turn it over, it's English.
Right.
They do cater to you. Now, it is nice.
They can see us coming.
That's right. And, hey, we keep them employed, so they appreciate our tourism money.
We started traveling after COVID. Barbara and I started traveling just as soon as we could. As a matter of fact, when the cruise lines resumed, we were on a cruise probably within a month or two of them resuming, and the Mediterranean, and everyone was so appreciative of the tourism coming back and the fact that we were willing to go out relatively quickly and come back. We got thanked everywhere about coming back and traveling again. So they do welcome the Americans coming to Europe, for sure. AK, tell us a little bit about the process of working with a travel advisor. So someone, and we're going to talk in a few minutes about how they can reach out to you, but so someone reaches out to you, how does that what does it look like?
So I definitely like to start with just a kind of email. I have a form I send everyone to get an idea of their trip dates, who all's traveling, when and where they want to go, budget, just to help with that, and then I schedule a call just to learn more about them. I like to know, have they traveled before? Where have they traveled? What's their level of adventure? One of my favorite things is just to suggest places people wouldn't think of, but you know, you've got places where I have, you know, clients that have been to Peru and done Machu Picchu. Well, that's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to camp, like really camp and hike. Yeah. But you can also do that trip, you know, more in a luxury way and not sleep in a tent. But really, you know, every client is different and pricing of every trip is different. So I have clients where I can book just 4 and 5 star hotels for them and get them a better value, because when I book it, I can get, depending on the resort, there are $100 food and beverage credits or towards the spa, breakfast for 2 daily. They're going to get a welcome amenity, which can be, you know, some sort of treat that's, you know, like if you're in Paris, you're going to get macaroons, you know, homemade. And then if you're in Mexico, it's going to be more Mexico themed. So there's just a lot more value because I have relationships with the sales managers, general managers, and can request, you know, hey, it's someone's birthday. Can you do a birthday cake for them? Again, room upgrades. So lots of extra perks just for hotel bookings, and there's no additional cost for that. But then you have like a 2-week trip that's going to include planes, trains, automobiles, you know,
Sure.
You know, Alaska, you got a cruise and a land tour. A lot of times when people do Greece, either with a cruise or not, you're doing ferries, island hopping. And those things, you know, you can't just, there's certain trips you can't just wing, you know. Same with London. I mean, entry tickets to places sell out months in advance. If you want to go to the Harry Potter studios, you sometimes have to book that a year in advance, depending on when you want to go. But really, you know, I've had clients and they're like, hey, can we just text? And I'm like, absolutely not, because I'm not going to be able to deliver the quality of trip, because I need to talk to you on the phone, ask questions, really dig in and understand what your likes and dislikes are, because if I don't know that, I might suggest something that's totally not in line with, you know, what would be a great experience.
Okay. Yeah. You know, it is complicated. And, you know, it's one thing, you know, everybody, you know, if they're just doing a family vacation going to the beach, that's a piece of cake. You can do an Airbnb or contact someplace and book it. That's fairly simple. But a lot of trips that require adventure, if you're going to areas that are a little bit out of your comfort zone, a great travel advisor can be crucial and can truly make the trip magical, because all the details come to play and you don't get caught with something that you just didn't anticipate and so forth. And that's where you come in to make sure all those little details come together to make it perfect from that perspective. So, Allison, you used a travel advisor when you did your honeymoon.
We did.
5 years ago.
We went.
And so tell us a little bit about that experience in booking that.
Gosh, it's been so long, I don't even remember the booking process. But we could not have done the trip without a travel advisor.
And actually, something came up in the middle of the trip. I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. So we started our trip in Amalfi, and then we went to Rome, Cortona, and ended in Florence. There was a lot of moving pieces. There were planes, trains, and automobiles, exactly like you said. And going from Amalfi to Rome, we had train tickets, but we had to get to Naples, back to Naples. And so we had a driver booked, and we were down in the lobby waiting for our driver, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and the driver didn't show. And so we called our travel advisor, and she got in touch with the company, got another driver on the way, and of course, we were delayed. We missed our train. We had to buy new tickets. But all of the troubleshooting that had to be done, we had help from our travel advisor. And they were able to hold our tour in Rome, because we went straight from arriving in Rome. We were supposed to go to the hotel to drop stuff off, to go straight to our Colosseum tour. And she held the tour for us so that we wouldn't miss the tour. There was a lot of troubleshooting that we would not have been able to do on our own.
True.
And so that was it made an experience that could have been very frustrating a whole lot less frustrating. And I know you would do that for your clients too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I bet the driver with the car service in Italy drove like a madman.
The one that did show up finally did drive like a madman, and we were a little scared for our life.
He's not unique, because they all drive like that in Italy. They're just, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I've never had a car service in Italy that was not just almost a hair-raising experience.
Yeah, I think he thought he was a Formula One driver.
They all think they're Formula One drivers. That part is amazing.
I actually had someone reach out yesterday and they were like, "Oh, Amalfi's not that far. We think we want to drive." And I was like, "Absolutely not. You do not want to drive." So those are suggestions of, okay, you can take the train. It's going to take 8.5 hours.
Yep.
Or you can fly and save yourself time, because obviously, everyone does think that, oh, Europe has trains, so I can get from Austria and Switzerland real quick. Well, wrong. It can take 8 hours.
Yeah.
So it's not always the easiest method of transportation.
Yeah. I mean, even just the train from Paris to south of France to Nice, that's a whole day trip on a train.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right. So, AK, how does somebody find you?
Yeah. So there's two ways, multiple ways, because there's social media, but our website is lifeisshortadventures.com, and there's a start planning form, so you can complete that. You can email me at ak@lifeisshortadventures.com. Then I obviously have Instagram and Facebook, and people reach out that way. But again, you're going to complete the form, we'll schedule a call, and then we will go from there.
Perfect.
I love to see all your clients posting their trips from
Yes.
everywhere, all over the world.
Yes.
It's fun to see that on social media.
People do think that I'm always with them. They don't always read that I'm sharing client photos. So I'm currently not in Italy, but I do have clients that are there right now, and they are making me wish I was back in Italy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, traveling, seeing the world is a fabulous adventure. I have that passion. My wife and I do. I know Allison and Adrian do. I know you do, KK. And helping people to have these fabulous adventures is something we help them plan financially for that, and get their life in a position so they can do that. And we truly advocate that. We think it's a fabulous
Well,
way
all
to
work
live.
and no play is not a way to live.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. So anyway, you can also find us at eaterfinancialwellness.com, and I'm Jack at eaterfw.com, and Allison.
And I'm Allison at eaterfw.com.
So we look forward to hearing from you, and hope to hear about your next adventure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys, and thank you for listening today. Please follow, and share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, I'm Wendy McConnell.